Okay, this is our first distance instruction for the Musconetcong watercolor group, and so this is going to be very low tech, but I hope it all works out. So I'm sitting here in front of the Musconetcong. I've got great light, and I've done my drawing, and I've sent members of the group the picture of the daffodils and also a picture of the colors that we're going to be using. And of course we'll be using some cad yellow, and also a Hansa yellow light or a lemon yellow would be fine. I have my quinacridone gold. That always comes in handy when you're not. The toughest part of daffodils are the shadow color on the daffodil. And, sometimes it's greenish and sometimes it's a warmer color. So the Q Gold comes in handy there. For my greens, I have a sap green. I also got out a Viridian, which mixed with the cad yellow makes a very happy green. For my blues, I've got a cerulean and a cobalt. I'm not sure where I'm using them yet, and because you want to complete the triad for neutrals, I've included a permanent rose. So I've got a yellow, a pink, and a blue for when I need those neutral colors. I'm not going to focus on the vase so much. I'm going to keep the focus on the daffodils, and I've positioned them so that the daffodils on the left have a dark background, and the ones on the right have the outdoors have a light background. So we'll see how that goes. All right, wish me luck. Every year we groan when we say, oh, daffodils, because they're not easy, because of shadows on yellow are tough. So I'm using my synthetic brush just to set my colors up in my mixing tray. And you get a range of yellows with daffodils. I have an assortment here from my garden, the first ones to appear. And over the course of my painting this, they'll probably move because they're going to start opening up. So I'm going to get my green ready. So I'm going to go into my sap green, have that ready to go. Okay. So I'm going to use number 10, and this is my silver black velvet. And so if you do a careful contour drawing, which is what I've tried to do here, you don't have to be real tight. You don't want to stay within the lines. You want the flower to feel like it's growing, that it's alive. And so that happens when the color goes outside the line. So I'll start with this one right in the middle. And so I'm putting the color down, and notice how I turn my brush around. So I move it in different directions. And so here for the center, I might want a little stronger cadmium. I might go right into this one, which is a cooler yellow because it's got light coming through the petals. It's a little stronger here. Don't be wimpy putting the color down. You can always dull it down. You can't brighten it up. So here I'm using the cad yellow as the shadow color, but I think, I think I'm going to go into a little yellow ochre for a little shadow over here, which that might have been a mistake, but I'm not going to worry about it. But I'm also seeing some greenish on there. So I'm squinting my eyes a lot. And I might even go right from here, that green I put on, I might go right into a stem. Now when I do the stem, I'm going to stop right at the edge of the vase. So what I'm going to do is work on adjacent areas for these daffodils. And I'll let some of that leaf color bleed right in there. That's actually a good spot for it. And put a little there. Yeah, I think the sap is working well as my shadow color on here. I think I'm going to wait for that to dry because I really want to get a sense of depth on the inside of the trumpet. So I won't fuss with that. And remember, with watercolor, you're just suggesting. I'm not doing a botanical drawing or painting. So there I put the green. Now I'm going to go with the yellow here, but it's kind of in shadow, so I'm going to bring some more green up. I'm going to save wherever I want a hard edge. I'm going to come back later. I'm just trying to do soft edges now. And I'm seeing my first neutral, which is the papery part on the where the bud or the blossom meets the stem. And so I'm going to reach for a little of that permanent rose and a little cobalt and a little my yellow. Notice how this makes a violet. So I'm going to add some yellow to the violet to get a neutral. And then I'm going to go right into that green again. And there's light hitting here. I'm going to lighten that up at the top. And I might even take a touch of Viridian in here, make it a little bit bluer. I like it. Okay, so now some fresh yellow. So I'm going to turn my brush around and go like this. Then I get a soft transition with the green. And want to keep that shadow color on there. Now there's going to be shadow here, but I'm going to wait till it dries to do that. And maybe a little. Some more of that neutral. But I'm not going to put it on the top. I want to try to keep some of the lights at the top because the light from outside is really hitting the tops of these. And so here, this is kind of a white blossom. So put a little of the paper color here. And over here. So I created a hard edge. I want to keep that. Now I'm going to go into my sap and create a hard edge on this blossom. Now I'm going to do this blossom and kind of a ochre color here. I got this permanent rose and cobalt. It's a little more purpley, and it's not actually the way I see it, but the way I think it looks good. Alright, so now I have this bud behind it, so I'm going to use some yellow now to set off the white tulip, daffodil. See, I said, oh, we're going to be real loose, and now I've gotten very tight with these. Not what I wanted to do, and we all know what I like to do if I start to get too tight is I like to get a little spatter going just to remind myself that this is supposed to be fun. All right, I'm going to take a technical check now, make sure I'm actually recording. Okay, well, so far it's working. Now another way you could do the leaves is, and this is kind of fun, is you can do it down here. You can do it in yellow first. And then drop the green in. And it's nice if you can let it run. So notice how I stopped right at the water line. So you want to stop your painting at the edge of the glass, and then you want to stop again at the water line. Maybe I'll put a little vert in here just to make it different. All right, that was fun. And so now I can get a little more. This is dry, this daffodil's dry, so I can create a hard edge here. And that's going in front of that. And then I can create a hard edge here if I want. So I pulled it up like this, and then I turn my brush around and I can go like that. And then I have a nice tip on that. These tips have a little yellow there, so I can let that yellow run down. So I can paint that yellow and then drop in the green. And where the values are the same, let the colors merge, or let the shapes merge. So here I have a lot of stems and leaves, so I did not differentiate one from another. Actually, I'll put a little green here. So I'm going to do this technique of just flooding it with yellow, and then I'm going to drop the green in, and then everything flows very nicely. So you could use either green, the cad yellow, not any green, any yellow, the cad yellow or the lemon yellow. And I'm just going to let this, oh no, I won't, I'm going to cover that up too. Okay, so I made that all yellow, and all right, so I've had my lunch, I've come back, the phone had cut out before I got to this point, but in looking at this, it's not looking as lively as I'd like, and I think I have to just be a little looser. So that sometimes means working with a bigger brush. So let's see. I might, no, that's too big. I'm going to try this number 12 silver black velvet. And I'm going to think about how it's dark over on one side. I don't want to paint exactly what I see over there. If you look in the photo, there's some dried flowers behind it, and I think I might take that as my color cue. And so here's where, do I want to go with Q Gold? maybe. So, if I go with Q Gold, it's going to stain. So I have to give this some thought. I could go with yellow ochre and then drop some other colors in and get a flowy thing happening. Then I could, or I could play it safe with a little cerulean blue. It's always a problem. I like these edges, so I think I'm going to keep those as dark against light, and I'm going to make this area light against dark. So I think I'll work upside down here, or no, I'm going to wet the background, but I'm not going to wet it right up to the flower. I'm going to just wet it so that when I move my brush away from the flower with the color, it will diffuse and soften and look very nice. That's my plan. So this is good Arches paper, and so this will stay wet for a while. Get up the excess here. And I think I'll have the dark end over here. All right, so I left some dry spots, and we'll just leave that for a little sparkle. And so now now the big question, what do I start with? I'm going to turn this, I'm going to do this so that I keep lifting and turning. This is a really nice color. So this is just to keep my palette limited. Oops, that's carmine. I'm going to go in with the permanent rose and the cobalt for a purpley color. And this is a complement to the yellow, so I want to be a little careful here not to just have it be two complementary colors. So maybe I'll make it big confusion here. Maybe I'm gonna switch gears entirely and use this light red color. This could be a big mistake, but I just feel like getting something happening here that's not expected. So if you don't have light red, you could use a little burnt sienna and see how that works. This is an earth color like burnt sienna, and so I want to be kind of loose with the application, so I don't want the daffodil to be enclosed. So I'll leave a little rim of light here, and I'm going to continue that light red over here. And I know how you guys hate it when I introduce a color that you don't have in your palette and you think, oh no, I have to buy another pigment. It's always the way it is. I'm not going to apologize. Okay, so now I'm going to get some mineral violet in here maybe, and really deepen this dark. Where do I want to deepen? I'm going to deepen the dark right here. And this seems to blend well with the light. Well, I am not happy with what happened in the upper left corner, but I kind of like the right side. So here's a case of what not to do. Don't try to put a complement behind your daffodils. Rather, keep it in the yellow-green family, or even the Q Gold or orange family, and don't go quite so dark, because notice that daffodil on the left is just very stiff and hard-edged, whereas the ones on the right, they're looking pretty good. They look very airy, and I added a little yellow up at the top that isn't even on the flower, suggesting another flower perhaps. Anyway, so this was our first attempt at a video. I have to figure out how to increase my storage on my phone so these videos don't kick out all the time. And anyway, so you can email me if you're in the Muscatine Watercolor group, and just if you have questions, or you can send me a JPEG of what you're working on, and or we could FaceTime. So we'll try this out and see how it works until I find another way to do some distance learning.